Hi everyone, welcome to yet another amazing episode of my authentic real estate story with CEO of Lagos. Today I have a very interesting guest. I call him Coach. He was my colleague at some point, even though he didn't know me at that time. But someday, somehow, we met on our site and I formally introduced myself because I knew him. Of course, he was a big boy and Oga at that time. And we used to just look at them from back office, these people doing things, and we connected and, it has been an amazing experience with him. He's an active investor in the real estate space, and I felt we needed to have this conversation with him to share his story, to share his experiences, and then take us on his journey. And so allow me introduce to you today Mr. Bankole Williams. Mr. Bankole Williams is a consultant par excellence. I'm sure his name rings a bell already. And a peak performance coach who has a proven record of helping organizations develop their human capacity to get great work done in less time so they can surpass their annual financial targets of their employers. He's a renowned force in consulting. He's always loved to do that, assisting no less than 12 prominent banks in Nigeria develop and deploy solutions for long-term profitability and sustainability. He's also a social reformer. Yes, I've attended one of those conferences he put together through his foundation, Live Your Dreams Africa Foundation. He has, over time, won several recognitions and awards for inspiring social work in youth and social development by government and then, of course, other private bodies. His foundation in 2019 is a recipient of Google.org Award for Youth Empowerment in Africa. In his quest to understand and optimize human potential, Bankole has gained management and career experience, first at Guarantee Trust Bank, where he was an invaluable member of the human resource team. He is the founder and principal consultant at LYD Consulting, a firm committed to delivering consulting interventions that lead to transformational change. For his exceptional work in human capacity development in 2019, he was given the Coaching Icons Award. In 2020 and 2021, he was also named one of the most powerful people in corporate Nigeria by Why Niger. Also in 2021, he was named one of the top 10 leadership coaches in Nigeria. This guy has done amazing things in leadership, in coaching, in consulting. Join me as I welcome my own coach, Mr. Bankole Williams. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How's your day been?
It was a mouthful.
In fact, when I got this profile, I told him, I said, Coach, your profile is intimidating. How about? I couldn't even do half of that. Trust me, guys. We probably spend another 7 minutes trying to go through and read through that. But I'm sure if you follow him very actively, you would know that he's doing amazing. His trainings are exceptional. He's building leaders, and I'm sure you can attest to that. If you haven't heard of him, this is your chance. So go follow him on social media so you can be one of those who benefit from those resourceful trainings. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
My authentic real estate story. So Coach, from your professional profile, which was a mouthful like you said, you are a human resource capacity development consultant, I beg your pardon. You're a certified life and career coach, a certified management consultant. How did all this lead you to the real estate part? Can you just share with us your interesting real estate journey?
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. First things first, amazing work you're doing. This is an opportunity to enlighten people about the opportunities that exist within SPARE. So, thumbs up.
Thank you.
Right. So my journey has been a very interesting one. And I think there's a lot that people can learn, because for me, I think I got to a point where I made up my mind I was going to get real estate. So I'm a management consultant. I've been doing, different things.
I'm sorry, so you don't lose your thoughts. Was there a reason why? What just made you make up your mind that you were going to get real estate?
Well, It's very interesting. So
Did
let me
anything
tell
inform
you.
it growing up, background?
Yeah. So now it's a beautiful question you asked. So let me tell you, it's an experience that I had with my parents. You know, my dad built a house, right? And there was a bit of a structural defect with the house. And this was the only house he had built in Lagos, right? He had built a house, you know, in the village. Nobody goes there. And I recall one time myself and my brother went there, and we saw the structural defect. We knew that it was going to be a hazard for them. And we had to make a decision to move my parents out of the house. And I remember that day when we put our foot down to say, you know, Dad, we have to move you. I've only seen my father cry 3 times. And this was one of those times. You know, I literally saw an old man just bawl in tears, because I could see that, you know, the one thing that was so priceless and precious to him, so to speak, he had to let go.
So many memories, I'm
exactly,
sure.
and he had to let go of it, right? And that experience was etched in my imagination, because I kept saying to myself, my father had opportunities to do this a lot earlier, but didn't take those opportunities, right? And he now did this at a later stage of life, and probably made some mistakes with respect to selections of people he worked with. And ultimately that led to, so to speak, a situation where you might say he felt a bit of regret. And I said to myself, I never want to find myself in this kind of position, right? And I find a lot of people always try to make real estate look like one big deal that is so futuristic, you know, one day we're going to do it. And I said to myself, you know, before I clock 40, right, I was going to own not just one, at least 2 real estates, right? So that was something that unconsciously had been there, which ultimately led to me getting to a point where I said, you know what, I have to own real estate. However it happens, I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to make the bold move to ensure that it happens. Yeah, so that's my story. And nice question, you had me thinking there.
This is supposed to help you delve deep and bring out the why, because there's definitely a reason why someone will decide, I need to buy real estate at least 2 before 40. So this, you know, now has given you your why. Very strong why. You didn't think of it before, but you know, you had the opportunity now. And so, you know, how did this journey begin?
So, journey into real estate. So at the point where I said to myself, I have to own, you know, one. I remember one day I woke up in the morning and I just felt very uneasy that I had, you know, I was known for the work that I was doing. You know, I'd achieved quite a bit, right? And whilst I was investing in some other things, I hadn't acquired real estate. So I woke up that day and I called my friend. I called a friend of mine who was in the real estate space, and I just wanted to know, you know, what's the hack? Is there any, how do you guys do this? Quick steps, do you understand? You know, to acquiring this, you know. And he told me something that at the time I didn't think was, I expected more, but with the benefit of hindsight, I see that was wise. He told me, Bankole, 2 things. He said, number 1, he said, make up your mind that you are going to get a house. Number 2, make it a project. And I thought you were going to give me the hacks, you know, the quick steps.
You had a notebook.
Do you understand? Ready to scribble. And that's what the words, all you told me. Said, number 1, make up your mind that this is something that you're going to do. Number 2, make it a project, meaning that, you know, as you earn, put money aside primarily, right, for it, right? And I thought to myself, okay, if this is what this guy has said. So I think that because I had shifted in my consciousness that I wanted to own real estate, and my mind started filtering in or allowing in information that related to real estate that normally would have flown over my head. So what I started doing was I started visiting sites, just to inquire, just to learn, I would see houses for sale. I would ask questions about it. I didn't have the resources at the time, but I was interested, right? And because that's where my mind was, like I said earlier, it said allowing in some kinds of information. So one day I was driving in my car and there was an advertisement on radio about a development that was happening somewhere around Orchid Hotel Road, right? And there was a number that was announced. Now, before that time, that information would have flown over my head. I would not have paid attention. But the minute I decided that this was what I was going to do, like my friend had advised.
Deciding you want to buy a Toyota Corolla.
And you start seeing it everywhere.
Everywhere
you start seeing it, and it's the law of recognition. Once you place a degree of importance on something,
absolutely,
the opportunities for the creation of that thing come your way.
Become enormous, yes.
Precisely. So that's the same thing. That's the first step that I believe that people need to make when they want to get real estate.
First, the decision.
The decision. Because once you make up your mind, all of a sudden, the resources for allowing that thing to manifest will begin to come in that direction, which is what happened with me. The information came, and I remember that day I was driving. And normally when you're driving, you're not supposed to use your phone. But I'm like, I need to take down this number. So I crammed the number, quickly put it down, and I said I was going to call. So I called the number. A gentleman who you obviously know, Nduka, picked up the phone. Right, and he told me about development on Orchid Hotel Road. So I went there to see it. I'll be very candid. I didn't have the resources to make it happen, but hey, you don't pay to check things out.
Yes, it's
right?
free to view.
Free, right? And it would spark up. Sometimes you need to see the beauty of what your future is going to look like for you to generate the desire, the momentum to make it happen.
Absolutely,
right?
I completely agree.
And that's what happened with me. So I went there, saw the developments, saw the swimming pool, the gym, and I was like, this is lovely. I'd love to own a place like this. I think there was only one unit left there. And like I said, I didn't have the resources, and I don't know I'm sure Onuka did not know that an angel was speaking to his ear. Because he now calls me back and says, there's another development that we're working on, and it's closer to the road.
Okay.
Right, and that's Victoria Bay.
Bay 1, yes.
Bay 1. So then it was just land. Orchid Hotel has changed. It was just a massive expanse of land. So we went there. And interestingly, obviously, when you're buying off plan, chances are that you get it at a lesser rate.
Yeah.
So I knew what the rate was, he communicated it to me, and I decided again that I was going to get a unit there, right? And somehow, some way, time and chance just collided. Resources came. Like I was mentioning to you before, the interview, I'd go there from time to time just to see what was happening. I think that if you're interested in something, there's absolutely nothing wrong in inquiring, asking.
And keep going there to get the appropriate inspiration and motivation that you require.
Beautiful, which is what happened with me. And on one of those instances when I just go to see, it wasn't like I didn't pay.
How often was this?
It was, interestingly, maybe once in 2 weeks or so.
Wow.
Oh yeah. In fact, there was even a time a friend of mine came from Abuja. I took him there, and I told him, "This, I'm going to get a unit here." And the guy was looking at me like, "Dude, have you paid?" And one of those instances, I remember. I think I was walking to my car and you called me.
Yes.
Right, and
I think I drove in and I saw it. You were leaving.
And you were coming in, and then you called me, and that's how we got to meet ourselves, and the rest is history. I meet clients.
Amazing. You repeat clients for that
exactly.
matter. Well done. Thank you so much. So, from your story, it's quite interesting how the experience with your dad, kind of began to change your mindset when you real estate. So, we'll say it's a bit personal.
Oh, definitely.
Going beyond personal. And there are other reasons why you have decided to start actively investing in real estate. So is it because of cash flow? Are you trying to store wealth and then grow capital? Why real estate? Why invest in real estate? And there are other forms of investments that you could have decided to do actively, completely, and not in real estate.
they say the only real estate is real estate.
I know.
And look at what's going on with the world. Where are you going to invest in that you experience that kind of appreciation? Obviously dependent on how you go about it. For instance, if you buy off plan, especially with a company like Victoria Crest, you see the appreciation that happens in a short period. Yeah. Not like we're saying that you're doing real estate for short-term investments. For me, that wasn't the case. No. Right? I'm looking more long-term, but there's nothing as beautiful as knowing that you have something that will consistently grow, right? And is a form of security. You can always fall back on it. God forbid if there's any emergency, but even beyond that is the fact that you can always convert at some point, to money that can be used for other things. But my own interests were more long-term, right? So
building wealth?
Oh yeah, definitely. Building wealth, transgenerational wealth. You want to be able to know that you own something that you can pass on. Amazing. So my experience with my dad was that personal because I could feel what he felt.
His pain. He couldn't pass that on.
Do you understand? I could feel that, hey, this is something that can be a legacy, that can be handed down, right? And that was my learning. Make sure you start building a legacy early, right? Especially, it's almost like paying the price now so you don't have to pay it later.
So they always say, don't eat your future now. Invest it so that, you don't have to regret, you don't have to have any regrets.
Precisely.
So don't eat your future now.
Today.
Invest, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Future. Pay it forward.
Precisely. Precisely. And I think that's for me, that's really what real estate. There are different people who have different reasons why they invest.
That's really why I'm asking the question.
Yeah. So mine is more like you said, it's personal, but I see the importance of building a legacy now, right? And investing in the future today. Right, and if at any point in time I feel the need to liquidate, which I hope I don't have to, right, in the short term, that you have is a form of security that that will always be there for you.
Amazing. So during this journey, have you had major experiences, major challenges? That you love. I love the smile. That you would love to share. We would love to hear.
I have. Investigate before you invest.
Investigate before you invest.
Very, 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 very important, right? So
that's a very interesting catchphrase.
Oh yeah, it is.
Investigate before you invest.
I'm telling you, make sure you are certain of the reputation of whoever it is that you're going to be working with respect to real estate. So yes, I have investments with Victoria Crest Homes, and there is another investment that I have in real estate, and I think the mistake that I made in that one was that I felt I investigated, but I did not investigate enough, right, about the pedigree of so that investment was more a renovation, right? So it was a renovation, and I had issues with the person who was putting together the structure, right? And for me, it was a lesson, it was a learning point, right? That it's important that you see the work of the person that has been done before.
If I hear you, Coach, what you're saying is it goes beyond buying the real estate. You first have to also look inwards at the people who you are buying the real estate from.
Most definitely. Not just look, see what they have done.
Yes.
Right? It's important. Anyone can come up with a brochure. Anyone can talk. They say it's cheap, but it depends on who's talking. Some of us talk, they pay us. but it's important that you see the work, right? Hear the testimonies of people who have experienced, the quality of their work. See, go, which is what I was doing at the time when I was trying to experiencing, right? When you see the quality of the materials that they are using, you listen to people who have lived in the houses for a period of time, it helps you know that these people are reputable, right?
Money is going to where you get value.
Precisely. Like for me, in the instance where, I had to, get someone to renovate the space, it's almost like now I'm spending the same amount of money to redo. The cost of rework a number of times is more, sometimes it's more than the cost of even starting all the way from scratch, right? So it's wise that you're working with an organization, an institution that has a reputation of delivering exceptional and excellent facilities. Otherwise, I'm telling you, what you think, you may be cutting corners, to save some. Exactly. On the long run, you're gonna spend the money.
Interesting. So during this, journey, did you at any point before you had this experience, did you at any point think about who should I work with? Coming from the agent part, who should I work with? On the development part, had you ever had cause to think about it before you had this experience?
Well, as in before I had the experience of renovation?
Recent, yes.
Oh yeah, of course. Before this experience, obviously, with getting my place with, Victoria Crest, obviously I had to do my own background. I had to do my own background work, right? Like I said, I was coming to the facility to see what was being done, the building, the construction.
Why were you doing that?
Well, like I said earlier on, investigate. So 2 reasons. 1, I needed to be inspired, right?
Okay.
I find that when you may not be in the right position, but make sure you're in the right location. Make sure you're in the vicinity where your dream can see the light of day, right? I wanted to believe that this thing was possible for me. So that was one of the reasons why I was going there. I was investing myself in, I was a stakeholder already, calling those things that be not that as though they were, but I really just wanted to believe that was a possibility for me, right? And that experience did something to my mind. That was the first thing. The second thing was, I wanted to know, okay, let me even see what the process is like. I remember one time going there, seeing all the big equipment everywhere. Do you understand? I saw some Chinese contractors and everything. If you want to know how good something is, look at the minute details. So to see how good a house is, look at the blocks that they're using to build, right? That's how you know the quality of. So I saw how they were taking. The process was, the process makes you appreciate the finished product.
Work,
exactly. So that's why I did that. It didn't cost me anything to do that, so I might as well do it, right? And it was serving 2 purposes. It was inspiring me, but I was also learning. I was also building my own credibility or building my own trust in the institution that I was going to be working with.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So basically I wanted to understand what informs your decision with who you decide to work with when it comes to real estate.
Reputation. A pedigree, reputation, definitely.
Amazing.
Or a pedigree of performance, of producing quality results is definitely, right, a yardstick for determining who I work with.
Amazing. What would you say to young guys? You were invested in this from what you have shared now. You used to visit the site at least once every 2 weeks. You needed to go there to continuously inspire yourself. What would you say to young guys who are not even at this level, who don't have this dream, who haven't even thought about it? What would you say to them? Because I feel like they are missing out.
Oh yeah, I'd say to them, seize the moment of opportunity you have now. Seize the opportunity of being young, of being vibrant, of being able to dream, of being able to inspire yourself to start no matter how small. The problem is that we think that we need to start big, right? Start no matter how small. I started small. And when I mean small, I started with a decision, right? I started with a decision that I was going to get real estate. I started with visiting. You think all these things don't, when I say small, I mean, do what...
You were already investing.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Do what you can with what you have.
Yes,
exactly.
You already started investing.
Right. And let your mind believe that it is possible for you. Because, see, it says that if they were mindful of the country from which they came, they would have created a pathway to go back. The same way, if you are mindful of the country or the real estate you want to live in, you will create the pathways to make it a reality for you. So make your mind full of this by giving yourself the privilege of inquiring. It doesn't cost you anything to inquire. It doesn't cost you anything to go visit, to come for one of those lunches and celebrate with other people and see what that experience is like and believe that it's a possibility for you. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything to say, I'm going to start setting aside some money. I may not have all the money as to make as a down payment, but what if I came up with a system where I'm putting aside a percentage of my earnings so that can ultimately serve as a down payment that I'm going to make for real estate sometime later? Guess what? The price of real estate, it keeps going, it keeps going up. So the best time to have started was yesterday. The next best time to start is today, is now. So start by just making a decision that I want this thing. Remember my own experience, right? That this should be a legacy that I want to leave, right? Start with that decision. Start with saying, you know what? I'm going to put funds aside. A certain percentage of my earnings is going to go into somewhere where I'm just saving up to have enough resources to make that thing happen. And I'm telling you, just that shift in your mindset would make you recognize an opportunity that will ultimately lead to the realization of that dream, right? The truth is, when we think about, you give an example, you desire a particular car, you start to see it everywhere. There are two things people say. Number one is that they'll say, Baba God is speaking to me. Yeah. I was on my own, one passed. The second one splashed water on me. It's a sign from the Lord. It's none of those things. Yeah. Or you say it's like everybody's buying this car. It's none of those things. What has happened is that your recognition system,
your visual.
Exactly. It has recognized something is important, and now that thing that is important is now making up the things that come into your imagination. Yeah. The same way I'm saying to you, if you do these things that I've told you, you will begin to see the possibilities for the actualization of that dream, right? An idea will pop up as to how you can navigate to ensure that you can get the funds to make things happen, and time and chance will collide, and ultimately that dream
amazing,
becomes
Coach. I didn't want to cut in. I wanted them to get all of that out.
Yeah.
But then a lot of people, when you talk to them about, visualizing, thinking about it, mindset shifts, a little bit of, putting aside, they're like, oh, I don't earn so much. There's so many excuses. At this time, you had the opportunity to pay over a couple of months. Yeah. How were you able to actively do that? Some of them want to know, okay, I earn this amount. Yeah. How can I actively take out money and still be able to live my comfortable life? Did you have to deny yourself of certain things? Did you have to have a lifestyle shift? Was there any drastic thing that you did, to be able to achieve that first deal that you were able to do?
Oh yeah. Very true. I actually had to make certain adjustments, and that's the truth, because the decision required the adjustment. So there were certain things that I was spending money on that were not needs. Everyone has got to be, there are certain basic needs of life. Shelter is a basic need of life. And I recognized that at a point in time. There were some other things I was spending money on that weren't really needs. Right? They're just nice to haves. But I'd gotten to a point where real estate was a must have. So I cut back on my nice to haves. But one of the other things that I'm really highlighting here is, and it's the truth, at the point when I was inquiring about the real estate, I didn't have the funds for it.
You didn't have the funds.
I didn't have it. But what I know is that somehow, some way, right, the jobs to make it happen came my way. And I just believe that there are certain universal laws that are activated when when you click on the inside.
Amazing.
When you make a decision within, right, things begin to work without on the outside. The problem is you haven't clicked on the inside. You are still dilly-dallying. You have not come to the point of conviction, right, and full persuasion that this is going to become a reality for you. These are some of the laws of the universe. When you make up your mind, exactly, engage them, they work together for you. And there's several other people who have had these sorts of experiences, which is what happened to me. Somehow, some way, and that's the best way I can put it. Because really and truly,
jobs
I got different jobs that I could even pay within a shorter time frame. So that is the first thing that I need people to understand, right? If you believe that something really and truly, if you believe that it is going to be a possibility for you, it will be unto you according to the faith that you have, according to your desire, right? So that's the first thing. The other thing is, like I said, I had to cut back on certain things, right, and make this a priority. But beyond that, I had to put funds aside. The problem a number of times is when people make money, see, money cannot be managed in its presence. Money is managed or mastered in its absence. So what that means is that before the money comes, you give money an assignment. The problem, exactly, before it comes. Because if you are waiting until it comes, I'm telling you, life has assignments for the money.
Yes.
So I had already given the funds. So yes, the opportunities came for me to have work. But before the jobs came, right, and I already had an idea of what was coming, I had already given them an assignment. I already knew the percentage of the income that was going in that direction. And that's that level of discipline that is important for you to be able to say, you know what, this is important to me. You know, there are some other things that call for my attention, but I'm going to set aside the resources and give this money an assignment before it comes, which is what happened with me. I knew the exact amount of money that I was going to be putting aside to make the repayments, and there was non-negotiable, right? The final thing that I'm going to say is, some people say, you know, but there are so many problems, so many things to cater to.
I know, and then some will say that they are salary earners.
Oh, of course,
so
they would say
that they don't get jobs. But then I'm sure you have to find, you know, if you are a salary earner, maybe you should speak to that, because at some point you are also, you know, full-time salary earner. If you want to get real estate as a salary earner, what do you think?
See, I think one of the things that people can do that would inspire them is to print their account statements for a whole year and see how much money has passed through their hands. You will be shocked. It will shock you. As in, just try to do a reconciliation of all the monies that has passed. You will amaze you how much money. In fact, try to do it for a 5-year period. It will amaze you how much money has passed through your hands that you cannot really account for, right? So there are people, people say, oh, salary earners. I used to work in a bank. I bought lands when I worked in a bank, right? I remember then, right, you know, this was, earlier on in my career, before people started investing in Moe and all of those places, some guys would come, and I was making, how much was I earning? 50,000 Naira debits every month. So I'd issue the checks for payments on real estate. And I was a salary earner. But my point is, I recognize that was priority. The problem is, what you do not measure, you cannot manage. So most people don't measure to see where their resources are going. That's the truth. People are not measuring. They say, you know, money is slow to enter, is quick to go. The question is, have you checked to see where it's going to? Have you checked to see how much money, for instance, you spend on making phone calls? I'll tell you something that happened to me. This was several years ago. You know, I got a call from an MTN representative saying that, she introduced herself, saying that she's my personal account officer, you know, and I'm an MTN Prestige, you know, and like, this was, how much was I earning then? And then I got a call. that and that I had a personal account of that I don't need to call 180.
So you were a HNI?
As a salary earner. That day I was like, who am I calling? But guess what? I didn't know because I was not measuring.
Yes.
And that's my point, right? Most people do not know how much money they require to run their lives in a month. As the average person, you should already have a system. You should already have an idea. There are certain fixed things you eat every day. There's things you can plan and tell. You have an idea.
You can measure them. And then the rest you can.
Exactly. But most people
plan and put aside.
True. But most people don't know. So they actually speak from an uninformed position. They haven't done the work to check to see that there are certain things that they spend their resources on that are not needs, but they just go to waste. And then you now say, where will this money come? Like I said, start small. Nobody's saying get a 5-bedroom, apartment or something.
No one is even saying come to Lekki for starters.
Exactly. Nobody's saying that. But give yourself the permission.
Face yourself.
Exactly. To believe that it's a possibility for you. Right? A lot of the people who have real estate, if you hear their stories, it will amaze you that they never even thought that it was a possibility until they made that decision.
Sure.
Right? So
even you who was visiting the site
at the time,
you didn't have the money and you didn't know
I didn't.
If it was possible, but you believed it.
I didn't. And what the trip for me is, once you start,
you don't stop.
You don't stop.
I've noticed that with those who actively invest in real estate. Why is that really?
So you see when you say taste and see,
that is good.
If you have not tasted,
you will not see.
You will not see. I'll give you an example. When I did the investment with Victoria Crest,
okay.
By the time it was done, I saw the appreciation.
In fact, I'm sure first of all, when you had the house price, you're like, Jesus, how will I get this money? Then I
had not even finished paying. The price was
going up.
I said, we will find this money. Right? When I saw the appreciation, I'm like, this. And interesting thing was that there was a friend of mine who I now wanted to get on board, but there wasn't any availability. Everything was sold out.
Whoa.
And it was even.
And how long did it take you to put it up for rent?
Immediately before even all the documentation was done, So that's the thing. What I found, especially with real estate, is I found out that location is and people take this thing for granted.
Sure.
Location is extremely, when you find real developers who know how to source for prime location, right? You don't play with those guys, right? So location is very key. Like the one that I got, prime location, really good location. So I found out, especially with getting people to rent a space. One, if it's in a good location, right? If it provides the amenities and facilities, right?
That basic comfort and convenience that everybody requires.
I'm telling you, if they have those basic things, I am telling you, your property, there are people, do you know the population of Lagos? There are people, especially if you're waiting, looking for accommodation and all of that. Now, my point is, that's why you need to investigate, because if somebody tells you, oh, these are brochure, this is what we do, all of that, they have all of that talk, but you haven't checked to see where they've cited the properties that they've done in the past, whether they have a pedigree for knowing where prime location is. Number two, have you checked to see the amenities, the facilities, the basic things that they've already provided in the previous estates? Have you found out whether the residents complain about things? Because all that information, anybody's going to take a space, going to ask questions about the kind of space. Yeah. The information is going to get to them and it's going to determine whether or not they're going to patronize you, right? Also find out their property in the past. Have they been able to get people to take up the rental, as in the renting of the spaces quickly. What is the rental value, right, of the units that they have in spaces that they've. So yes, a place can look good, doesn't mean that the rental value is going to be great, right? Sometimes it's the reputation of the developer that even places the value on the property, right? And some say, I don't want to go with that developer. You don't understand that going with the person is what will guarantee the kind of income you want to generate and the value, right? And the sustenance of the facility. So it's not just about buying, it's also about maintaining. So if you're buying a space and 5 years, 3 years, down the line, the place doesn't. It's the value. Who's going to the value of the place is going to drop. You want to ensure that there's continuity. So exactly. So a company that guarantees that is definitely a company you want to work with.
Amazing! What a lecture from an investor.
Me, I'm just an investor.
All he has done is, investigate. I want to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one. We've had a number of stories about women owning real estate and hiding it from their partner. What do you think of men owning real estate and hiding it from their partner, their wives?
Why are they both hiding?
I don't know.
But it happens. It definitely does happen. And I think it also happens because sometimes there are instances where both parties have to go their separate ways, and women have in the past been victims of not securing a position for themselves, right? And at the end of the day, they lose out on everything.
No, but on this flip side now, it is men hiding properties from their partners.
Yeah,
why would that? Why should that be? Why would you own real estate and not discuss with your partner?
I don't think it should be. I think that there should be transparency in marriage. Everybody should know, what's going on. The question is one unit. Yeah. If you are hiding, the question is, what else are you hiding? Right,
Well, maybe there are certain signs that the person has seen
that maybe the marriage may not work, or
I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe we should ask them.
I know, right? I haven't seen them, but I'll be hearing that's going on.
My thought is, and I'm saying this particularly also because I recognize that I feel like a lot of women have been disenfranchised because because they've entrusted everything to their spouse, right? And I've heard of cases where it almost feels like the woman is back to ground zero, without she's sacrificed, she's given a whole lot into that relationship, and at the end of the day, the man owns everything, right? So,
and sorry to cut you, I've also seen cases where, unfortunately, because no one plans for these eventualities, the man dies and is no more. And then of course because nothing was disclosed to the partner or was put in her care, how they say next of kin, and then you co-sign stuff, and she knows nothing
about it.
The family comes and takes away everything, and then
which is why I'm an advocate of full disclosure, because at the end of the day, your wife is going to suffer, your kids are going to suffer, right? And who's going to be the beneficiary? Somebody who you have not even labored for, right? So I think
it may not even be who you've not labored for. Who doesn't understand the struggles you both have been through?
Yes, for that. So I personally believe in openness when it comes to. See, my view when it comes to the concept of marriage is, when you say till death do us part, is assets and liabilities. When two are becoming one, there should be full
mind,
disclosure
and soul and every other thing added to
what
it.
I own and what I owe, right?
True.
The owe part.
Assets and debts.
Do you understand? Full disclosure, and we're agreeing that we're both in this together. So that's my view. I also will add that I understand when some women probably hold back because they want to I don't know, maybe they foresee that this thing may not work out the way they want to. But I think that both parties should be involved in real estate. It should not just be a one-sided thing. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Coach. Let me allow you give one or two words to, anyone who you think should hear, or who has listened to your story and is still having one level of doubt or the other, reasons why they are probably foot dragging or struggling with raising capital, or whatever their reasons may be, why they need to, first change their mindset and then begin to actively get involved in real estate.
Well, I think my advice would just be, if I could do it, then you can do it, right? If you've heard my story, and I own real estate, not just one, I own a number today, and it started with one. Imagine if you made that same decision that I made, a couple of, and it's not been so long, interestingly. Yeah, imagine if you made, you're very aware. Imagine if you made that same decision right now, right? Imagine how, time and chance begins to collide in your favor. Imagine how the universe will just ensure that resources begin to align and the opportunities start, coming in your direction. Truth is, the price of real estate is appreciating, right? It keeps going up. We know it's a constant. The price of materials, all of that. Some people are saying, well, I'll do it when I have the money.
Even when there's a market crisis, somehow real estate survives.
Exactly, survives.
Because that's where inflation is hedged.
True, and exactly. And the truth is, anyone who's already put their resources, there's a certain amount that they spent already. Nobody's going to cut back on nobody's going to position for a loss, And the truth is, there's still a lot of demand for real estate. So why not go? Exactly. So why not go in the direction where there's demand, right? And if you go in the direction where there's demand, you're sure that you will experience capital appreciation, and you'll be able to, generate huge amounts of resources from it. So don't stall. Act now, no matter how small. Start small. Right? Think big, start small, but grow fast.
Thank you so much, Coach, for pouring out and sharing with us your authentic real estate story today and inspiring a whole lot of people. I'm sure you have also been inspired as I have, because even I am learning doing all this. Maybe sometimes I probably haven't investigated very well. Now I know I have to investigate more. You learn every day. I am also constantly learning. So don't forget to like, share with everyone in your community, and then of course subscribe, to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. You have been an amazing audience. Thank you.